All right, fam, it's dark, it's cold. Actually, it's not that dark, it's kind of sunny, but it's real cold, like crazy cold. So I felt today was a great day to make margaritas. Of course, we're gonna take photos of them too, because that's what we do around here. All right, I'm gonna set you down so I have my hands free to make drinks. All right, so we're gonna make a margarita, a good one. First things first, get yourself one of these, a lime, a real piece of fruit. No need for artificial bottled juices or mixers here. Just a real fresh lime for fresh lime juice is what's going to make or break your margarita. That's not everything though, because tequila will make or break your margarita as well. Use a good one. Lalo is one of my favorites. You can make a good margarita with fresh lime juice, tequila, a little bit of agave nectar or honey syrup. Traditionally, you use an orange liqueur. My quality go-to is Combier. First, we're gonna prepare our glass by cutting this lime in half and rimming our rocks glass with salt. So we're gonna take half a lime and rub just on the outside half of the glass here. Then we're gonna take some coarse sea salt and we'll rub that edge in the salt. I like to make sure the salt stays on the outside of the glass so you don't get any floating around in the drink itself. I personally really enjoy a salted rim, but not everybody does. So that's why I salt just one side of the glass. That way whoever gets to enjoy the drink can decide which side of the glass they're gonna drink off of. We're gonna set that aside for now and start building our cocktail in our shaker. You're gonna need a jigger for measuring our ingredients, a hand juicer for our fresh squeezed citrus. In some videos, you'll see me juicing straight into the shaker. That's usually more for looks, but generally I recommend measuring every ingredient, including your citrus, because even if a recipe says juice of half a lime or juice of a whole lemon, that's going to vary from fruit to fruit. So in general, it's best to measure even your fresh squeezed citrus. We're doing 1 ounce of fresh lime juice and 1 ounce of orange liqueur and 2 ounces of tequila blanco. Basically a 2-1-1 ratio. 2 parts tequila, 1 part lime juice, 1 part orange liqueur. Can't really go wrong. Now it's perfectly fine to add a little bit of agave nectar or simple syrup if you want it less dry. But in my experience, the orange liqueur, especially if you use a quality one, is going to be plenty of sweetness to balance the cocktail and not make it overly sweet. Now have ice in the shaker and you know what comes next. Gonna take our salt rimmed rocks glass, add a few pieces of ice and strain. And there is your perfect classic margarita. I would typically serve this without a garnish, just doesn't really need it. Maybe I'd throw a little lime wheel in there, but I would avoid a lime wedge. Typically, when someone is served a drink with a lime wedge, their instinct is to take it and squeeze it into the drink, which in this case would kind of throw off the balance of the cocktail. We measured our lime juice, so we had the exact right amount to make this a delicious, balanced drink. So coming along and squeezing even just a small lime wedge into it will throw it off completely. So we have our cocktail, which is actually fairly simple in appearance. So let's figure out how we might want to photograph it. All right, check it out. I've got another salt rimmed glass and I have some fake ice here. So I'm going to carefully put this fake ice in this glass. You don't want to just drop it in there, otherwise probably break your glass. And then, whoo, there goes a bunch of salt. Hopefully this works. And take my cocktail, hopefully hold back the real ice there, pour that in. That way we can shoot this drink and have as much time as we need and not have to worry about the ice melting on us. All right, fam, we have my windows open. Sorry if that's blown out on the video. That's just how it's gonna be. I'm going to try shooting this cocktail just with some natural light. See how that looks, and then we'll probably try it with some off-camera flash as well, just to see the differences in these two different styles of lighting this cocktail. So once again, pretty simple margarita in our rocks glass here, salted rim, no garnish. I've got my Sony a7 IV with a 24-70 zoom lens, And as with a lot of my cocktail imagery, I want to backlight the drink, especially since we have some nice afternoon light coming through these beautiful steel windows. And we're gonna see how this looks. I might incorporate some of my bar and bottles into the background. I'm leaving it on the metal grate here on my bar top. That can be a nice detail and have some cool reflections and interactions with the light. I still just have a little jigger. I might add some other bar tools as well as simple props, but let's see how this looks and how we feel about it. So I'm shooting at 70 millimeters, so my zoom lens is all the way out. Sorry, that sounds a little dirty. Moving on. Shutter speed is 1/125. f4 is my aperture, ISO is 300. Have this jigger kind of in the foreground here. Might widen my aperture a bit, get some more background blur. The light is hitting the bottles directly behind the subject, so that kind of works out nicely here. Gives me a nice bright backdrop, maybe a little too bright, but I'm getting some nice bokeh on those bottles. All right, so some fun lighting from the sun. I'm okay with these. I'm not thrilled, but these are nice enough. That's just not generally how I work. I want these to be real nice. So let's pull out a strobe, a flash of some kind, and see what we can do then. So what you're seeing here is a flash placed inside an umbrella, which has like this diffuser over it. I think this is like 53 or 55 inches, so pretty big. And then the light inside is something called a modeling lamp. So it's actually pretty dim. It's hard to tell on video, but the modeling lamp is just showing you, kind of giving you a preview and an idea of how the light is going to fall on your subject. But it's going to be much brighter when I take the photo because I have my wireless trigger on my camera. It's going to flash, light up our scene, and hopefully give us a little bit more control over the lighting and the look of the photo itself. All right, I'm gonna try to do the same setup or similar photos as I shot with natural light. I'm just using the flash. So I'm shooting now at 1/200 for my shutter speed, a little faster. Really kind of blocking out any ambient light here. Let's see, aperture's at 5.6, ISO is at 100. Take some photos like this. All right, that looks pretty good. Do some vertically. All right, yeah, a bit more clarity. I might adjust the aperture slightly. When you're using flash, you're able to get a lot more light, so you can close down the aperture further, which means you're gonna have less compression in the background, but it will give you a wider focus area, which is great when you're capturing small subjects like this. Oftentimes when I'm shooting with a wide aperture, just like the lip of the glass is in focus and the rest of it's blurry. With this, I can close it down to f8, f11 if I want, and get the whole glass in focus. We now have our photos pulled up on the monitor here so we can take a closer look. Here are some images I captured with the natural light from the window. Now again, this was pretty bright afternoon sun. It was probably around 2:30 when I took this. So we had some light really hitting the back bar, as you can see in the background here. And those are just bottles on my bar that really caught the light. We're getting some bokeh, but it's a bit maybe too bright. It actually kind of maybe is a bit distracting from the subject itself because there's so much light on that background there. So maybe that wasn't the best angle. I was hoping to use that a bit, but some of these angles you can see, we have the bright window, definitely, overexposed, but sometimes that can work to our favor, at least with backlighting the cocktail here. I was trying to play with the darker wall as well as the backlighting, a thin depth of field. These were shot at around f4 or 4.5. We're getting some nice detail in the glass there, the salt on the rim, as well as some detail from the ice. So again, I'm not like mad about these. I'm not thrilled about them either, but they're not bad photos, but aren't necessarily ones that would, maybe pass my strict quality standards. So here's some other ones of kind of slightly different angle. Again, kind of the colors and the light in the background are pretty, but it's like brighter than the subject. So not something I'm super thrilled about. But here we get into the images with the flash. Now, as you can see, it's just a bit more crisp, more detail. I was able to close down my aperture several stops since flash gives you so much more light. Close it down to f8, as well as lowered my ISO to 100. So again, you're getting a little bit more detail, more crisp edges. Not as much of a soft background, not as much bokeh, but as you can see, the light is a little more evened out throughout. We're still getting light on the bottles in the back bar, but we're also getting a lot of light on the cocktail itself. That ice is standing out. Just looks a bit more 3D, a bit more real, in my opinion. Now, again, I'm kind of playing with slightly different angles here. Some of these I might not go with, but yeah, trying to do some similar angles as before, and you can see, and maybe if we put them side by side, you can see the difference. It might not be a huge difference to your casual observer, but as you start using off-camera flash or maybe use it alongside artificial light, you will start seeing just the advantages and just being able to get that much more detail and having that much more flexibility with your lighting, your composition, and your exposure settings. At the very least, we got a great margarita out of it. We're back to the real ice now. So let me know if there's any other lighting techniques or tutorials you'd like to learn, and I'll see you in the next one.